Start recording. Hey, and let me introduce everybody to Veronica Monet. And since we didn't have a podcast, I'm going to give you her full intro. So Veronica Monet, ACS, is an internationally acclaimed sexual empowerment change agent. CNN, Fox, Politically Incorrect, Yale, Stanford, and UC Berkeley are just a few of the numerous news and educational institutes that have hosted Veronica for her forward-thinking insights and expertise. Veronica guides her clients to fully realize their unique spiritual, emotional, relational, and erotic path. As an IFS informed coach, certified sexologist, anger specialist, and trained domestic violence and rape counselor, she combines her experience with the deep empathy delivered from personal experience, personally overcoming incest, rape, violence, and abuse. She not just survives, but thrives. Veronica is committed to helping others own their personal empowerment and realize their freedom and joy that is their birthright. And she invites you into her sacred space, the shame-free zone. Now, welcome. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. I'm really glad to be here. This is a fabulous event. Thriving after adverse childhood events. Who doesn't want and need to know about that?
Yeah, well, they're pretty prevalent. They're a lot more common than people would like to admit in public, right? And nobody really wants to walk around just regurgitating junk, right? Yeah,
That's not what thriving's about.
it's
But
really
but ignoring it and pretending it didn't happen or denying it, minimizing it is not thriving.
that's also not thriving. No, so there's like a
Yeah.
balance of acknowledging and moving on.
There's stages that we have to go through.
Hmm.
So we have to come out of our denial. Every child needs denial. That is how it survives. And then as we get older, if we get the right resourcing and we have the right support, we can start to come out of denial and actually start to see the depth and the breadth of the adverse events. And then we can start working with the trauma responses that are built into us. And sometimes those are just avoidance patterns. Like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I don't want, and that's also really inhibits your ability to thrive. So people who are really realizing their dreams and wake up joyful in the morning, in my experience, are the ones who have actually done the hard work, which sometimes requires grieving. It's messy work. If you think about how we get born, it's messy. It's hard work. That's how we come into this plane. And it's also how we rebirth ourselves after a traumatic childhood. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hard work. But on the other side of it is so much life and so much joy.
Yeah, if you think about a baby, right? There's so much joy, at least for me. There's so much joy in I'm definitely the lady who cannot hold back the baby voice. Like, oh my God. Anyway,
Yeah, okay.
when you
You're
say
feeling me.
when you say children need denial to survive, can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So our lives literally depend on the people that are taking care of us. And usually that's our parents, not always, but some kind of an adult caretaker is in charge of our bodies, our food, our housing. They just have absolute control over us. And we're helpless. And because of that, it is too overwhelming for a child's brain to go, oh, the person who is godlike and in charge of every aspect of my being right now is also really, like, perverted or deficient or mentally ill or just incompetent or cruel, but or maybe just drunk. I mean, we've all had such different experiences. I have had clients whose parents were literally murderers, they still love them. It is in our DNA to love our parents. We have to. Our lives depend on them. So to do that, we sometimes kind of split off, and we have these subpersonalities, these parts. In a healthy human being who hasn't been exposed to a trauma burden, you're going to have parts, but they work together and they know about each other, and there's cohesion, there's integration, which isn't always the word people like, but it works for me. I like to use the word integration, because what happens with trauma is those parts kind of go off to their own corners and do their own thing. And each of them has their own agendas, and then they start working at cross purposes. So things will show up in our lives as we get older. Like, I had a resolution, I had a goal, but I couldn't meet it for some reason, and I don't understand why. And I'm just not able to do the things I say I'm going to do. Or I do them, but then it backfires and it doesn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And that's usually because we've got polarized parts that are kind of fighting for control. And that starts way back in the childhood, when those parts split off and did their thing to keep us alive, to keep us from harm. And we just want to like call in all the troops and understand their trauma, understand their pain, and then help unburden them so that they can feel seen and loved. And when our parts feel seen and loved, they relax and they give us space to actually manifest that self that is wise and ancient and has so many beautiful characteristics and actually all the answers. I don't help my clients figure out and decide what they're going to do with their lives. I help them work with their traumatized parts so that their wise self, who has way more answers than I could ever provide, is able to show up fully. And then their lives change in ways that are just gorgeous. Kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
Okay. The space to talk. So when people have the space, that it goes into so many phenomenal different places, and you get all of the wisdom that's within them. And I love how you touch on that, how like when you're helping people heal, you're really showing them their higher self, because it does, it knows way better than any practitioner and what you need.
It does. It really does. And, I have my own spiritual beliefs. I believe that we all have had past lives. You don't have to adopt my belief system to get value from the work that I offer. But it helps me have respect for the people that I'm working with, that no matter how dense or difficult they may be manifesting right now, that's usually just a part that I'm interacting with. And the more I can help the parts to relax and their higher self is able to manifest, the more brilliant and capable they become. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, and I love that, but I'm so curious. Can you explain to us what an IFS informed coach is?
Absolutely.
Thank
So Richard Schwartz, about 48 years ago, developed something called internal family systems, IFS for short. And a lot of people had a problem with it. I've got a background in psychology, and the dominant modality has always been CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically talking. And then we've also got offshoots like EMDR, which is kind of the rapid eye movement or bilateral stimulation. And that's got actually a very good track record of treating trauma for some people. A lot of times it works well with trauma that is focused on one event. But if we're talking about childhood, which is what we're talking about today, we're talking about repeated exposures. So CBT and EMDR don't work so well if you've got complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of people may not have that severe a thing, but I do want to stress we all have trauma. Even if it's not complex trauma, we've all got trauma. And First of all, I just happen to think that the society is traumatic, is traumatizing. But aside from that, there's epigenetics, which is a real scientific field. And they have shown that trauma travels through the generations, 7 generations. So that means whatever was happening with your great, 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 great grandparents is still living in your DNA. And you're that's what you get to do. You get to process what happened in your childhood and what happened in their childhood and the childhood before you. So I just really want to stress that it's so important that we start looking at these things and uncovering them and freeing ourselves from the burden, because that's how we're going to not only manifest the lives that we want, but actually create a future for our children that is more beautiful than the one that's in existence right now. So internal family systems is a process of finding, it's basically, we call it mapping the parts. So we've got protectors. They fall under the categories of manager and firefighter. So just to give you an example, a manager is kind of like that thinking part that says, well, I'm going to start a company. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. every morning, and then I'm going to work until, 10 o'clock at night, because I'm starting a new company. And then we've got firefighters. Firefighters usually show up when there's some kind of a traumatic event. A lot of them go back to our childhood. They're protecting a 6-year-old that's inside of us, or a 10-year-old that's inside of us. So let's say the manager has decided that we're going to start that company and we're going to have a really rigorous schedule to do it. We might have a firefighter that is trying to protect a 6-year-old who's like, I want to go out and play. So, so then that would become like a polarized part. We'd have a manager saying, no, we're going to start this company. And we've got a firefighter saying, no, we're going to play. How do we resolve those kind of conflicts? Well, ideally, we would like both parts to have some input, to have some say, because they both have a good point. But the thing is that firefighters are going to do exactly what their name says, which is the house is on fire, break the windows, bust the door down, spray all the furniture with water. It's kind of destructive usually. And managers tend to be kind of rigid and very cerebral, and they don't really get into feelings as much. And we need all of those parts. We really do. We're complex. Our lives are complex. It's just that what ends up happening for most of us is we flip-flop back and forth. And that's why we have a hard time getting launching our plans and getting our life where we want it to go, because we're flip-flopping. People do this in intimate relationships. I love her, I hate her. Yeah, well, you actually do both. But what would help calm that down of going back and forth, where you're having kind of this schizophrenic reality around your relationship, is get to know the different parts in you that are holding on to something that happened before you ever met this person, which is causing you to act a little crazy. Probably it has something to do with maybe a first lover and a parent. And when you start sorting that out and really get connected with those parts, they calm down. Voila! All of a sudden, you've got access to self. Self has got 8 fabulous characteristics. They include things like compassion, curiosity, creativity, confidence, clarity, connection. And I'm always missing the last 2 for some reason. But what I'll do when we're done here is I'll pop a little PDF in for everybody to see it. When you're in that place of self, you know what to do. It's not difficult.
Right.
So that's the goal of IFS.
Okay, is integrating it and being in that place where you know what to do.
Yeah. And okay, so you're able to hold all of reality instead of just selecting the negative or the positive. You can hold it all with equanimity, and it's a freedom. The first time I started, well, when I first started doing IFS for myself personally, I was like, self, all I have are parts. I have my angry parts, my sad parts, my scared parts, my resolved parts, my can do parts. I don't, this self thing, I don't. But eventually I started experiencing self and I was like, wow, this feels great. The person I'm like, my partner could be having a meltdown and getting angry. And I'd be like, but that's unfortunate that he's feeling that way. And then I'd start feeling some compassion for his part, but I wouldn't feel like I had to cater to it or fix it. I would just be observing. And
Yeah.
I'd have clarity to know how to handle the situation in a way that wasn't triggering my little exiles, the parts inside of me that were wounded as a child.
That's true freedom right there.
It is.
It is.
It really
And I
is.
think it's a really underrated freedom. Like, you know, traveling is really cool, which is freedom of one kind, and financial freedom is really cool. And that is a freedom for sure. But the ability to look at people and not be pulled into their emotional pool is huge.
And not have a wall between you and them either, so that your heart is open and you're feeling compassion for them. It's the closest thing to nirvana I've ever experienced. It's just I've got the compassion for myself and for them, and I have confidence that this is going to be fine. I'm not getting triggered into old coping mechanisms, and I'm not catastrophizing, and I'm also not going into denial. I'm not trying to fix it, and I'm not trying to run away from it. Life has got so many complex, difficult events, you know. We lose loved ones, we suffer setbacks. And to be able to enjoy what's going on in your own head and your own heart, no matter what's going on around you, in a way that isn't like, I don't know, just oming your way to not caring, because I'm not talking about that kind of a space. I am talking about a place where you're fully engaged, fully a part of it, and yet at peace. Yeah. Yeah. And the emotions are going to come and go. You know, you'll feel grief, you'll feel anger, but it's just that you're not going to act it out, and you're not going to have all of that confusion inside.
Ooh.
I think confusion is really difficult for a lot of us. It's like, should I do this or should I do that? And I don't know. I think that's why one of my favorite things about self is clarity. It's just, it's calm and it has clarity.
Yeah, and confusion takes up a lot of time. Like, it's a huge time suck.
It's what I deal with a lot in my coaching practice. I don't know if I should do this or if I should do that. And I sometimes, well, if we can get to self, it's probably going to manifest a solution that's neither this or that.
And it's probably going to be better.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Now, while we do have your wisdom here, I was wondering if we could talk about tapping back into your erotic self.
Yes, absolutely. That's my wheelhouse since I'm a certified sexologist.
Yeah.
So, but I want to go through the whole door of trauma,
Yeah.
because whether, you know, some of us, myself, um, sexually abused as a child, 1 in 4 women, last time we did any kind of studies on it. So, you know, there's more than 4 of us here. That means some of us were sexually traumatized as children. And then we've got an awareness now since the hashtag Me Too that a lot of men, women, and gender neutral people have also been sexually harassed or assaulted as adults. So it's important to just acknowledge that we need to work with that before we can get to the good stuff. So if what you're trying to do are like pills and potions and positions, um, okay, good luck. I have lots I have had lots of people come over to me over the years. They just wanted a quick fix for their sex life. And I was like, no, let's go into the emotions, because sex is first and foremost energy. It's not even a genital event. It is something that takes place at the base of your spine. And you can manifest a fire breath orgasm hands-free just by learning how to breathe. Energy is what drives our eroticism. And if we know that, if we understand that energy is what is erotic and that is what is sexual, then we can turn our focus to the energy between us and ourselves and us and potential partners. And that's why we need to make sure that we have cleared that energetic, psychic, emotional field. So I work with people who have sexual trauma that they're aware of. And I work with people who are just shut down because this culture has shamed them around their bodies and around their sexuality. So it really depends on what somebody's dealing with. Do they feel self-conscious about their body? Do they cringe when somebody touches them because they experienced a bad touch at some point in their life? Are they having relationship issues where they're angry, frustrated, don't feel seen, heard, safe emotionally, and then trying to ignore that and go on and have a great sex life? Whatever reality you're dealing with, you want to deal with that first. I used to teach sex classes. I'd have like 3 couples come in to have sex with each other in the classroom. And it was a 3-hour class. And the first hour and a half, we dealt with anger issues and anger management. And they were always a little resentful about that because they'd brought their towels and their condoms, and they were all ready for something that was going to be hot. And here I am taking them into arguments. But on the other side of that, they would have the best sex that they had had in years because we had cleared the energy field.
Okay.
And so I know this stuff works because I've brought it to so many couples. But I'm gonna pause for a minute because I'm thinking I probably evoked some questions.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this? I think a lot, it's been a very informative day, and I think people are kind of soaking stuff in.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. So
Well,
if
a first step, I will just give a piece of exercise, if you will, something that somebody could do if they're feeling a little bit shut down around their own sexuality, their own eroticism. Get out a piece of paper or your pad and just list out some of the first sensations that come to you if you think about becoming romantic or sexual, and also the thoughts. So there might be a bodily sensation of, kind of cringing or revulsion. There could be, or embarrassment, shame, fear. Just like try to find those feelings that come up. And then the thoughts that are attached to those feelings, like, oh, I don't look very good, or, I put weight on since I had the baby, or my girlfriend told me that I wasn't large enough for her. I'm just really trotting out some of the stuff I've heard over the years. Um, or, my last relationship was very painful. Sometimes I had sex that I really didn't want to have just to please my partner. I feel numb when I touch myself. Find out if any of those sort of things evoke something in you. And then the next thing is to find the parts of you that are younger that at first started having those feelings. So here's what I'm leading you through. First, you find the bodily sensation, then you find the thoughts attached to it, then you trace it back to the first time that you thought and felt that way. And that's going to give you a connection to this part that's still living in the past. One of the things we don't want to do with our parts is update them. So we have to let them know I'm older now, we're safer now. I hear, that you're concerned about that particular thing, but I'm here now and I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to protect you so that that part can relax. So that could actually work even for self-pleasuring.
Yeah.
Like if you were having difficulty touching yourself and producing an erotic feeling, go in, talk to your genitals.
Nice.
I actually have an exercise about having a conversation with your genitals.
Yeah. That's a fantastic exercise to have.
Well, it is. And I've had a lot of people say, well, I can't, something's not happening here. What, and I go, okay, I want you to do this exercise. Put your hand on your heart, put your other hand on your genitals, and just breathe. Set the timer for 10 minutes, breathe, and just ask your genitals, what do you want me to know? And your genitals will talk to you. They'll show you pictures of things that have happened in the past, or things that they're feeling right now. And that's important information. And then you can, if you feel like you let your genitals down in some way, insulted them, abused them, ignored them, didn't listen to them, you can apologize.
Actually,
And
yeah,
they will respond.
I can just picture people bawling over this exercise, it being so powerful.
Sometimes my clients have gotten in touch with some
Yeah.
pretty difficult things. I would say make sure that you've got a professional support, like a therapist or a coach, that you can take something to if you have a memory that's difficult.
Yeah.
And other people have just realized people of all genders end up having sex with people that they love that was not pleasant for them. And so much of this points back to our shame around sex. So then we don't know how to talk about it and we don't know how to interrupt it to say, that's actually not working for me, or I don't like that. And so I've worked with so many wives and husbands who are having sex that they hate because they love their husband or wife. And that's one of the reasons I want to help people start talking about what they're actually feeling, because nobody should be having unwanted touch, even from somebody that you married and have committed your life to. That's every time you subject your body to unwanted touch, unpleasant touch, you shut it down. And that's one of the reasons people that have been together for 20 years start to go numb. And then they wind up in my office going, we love each other, we want to stay together, but nothing works in the bedroom anymore. And it's like, well, let's start unpacking the ways that you have been ignoring your truth. And they go home and have great sex.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh, that
And
happened.
look, I want to say one more thing about this, Tania, which is sex is not in the category of everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to go to the bathroom. We've got to take it out of this, like, well, it's just one of those urges. It's not. It is a doorway to the divine. It is a way to open up your awareness to the other side. The ancients knew this. If you want to go back 6,000 years before we had monotheism, this was common knowledge. But we've lost that, and we've put sex over in this little ghetto and kind of made it just something we can't talk about. And one of the ways to rebirth your eroticism is to reclaim your birthright that your sexuality is divine, and it is one of the ways that you can catapult your creativity, your spirituality, and your connection to life. And it's just a powerful way to do that. Sexuality is actually my spiritual path. And it's one of the reasons I'm so damn happy.
Oh, God. That's awesome. Okay, and on that note, did you have a free gift to provide for the audience?
I do. And it's actually pretty apropos here. It's called the Exquisite Partnership Formula. It's 10,000 words long. Don't let that scare you. It's beautiful. You're going to love the pictures. And it's absolutely free. All you have to do is go over to theshamefreezone.com/subscribe. And in it are several different key ways that couples can work through relationship difficulties. And first and foremost, there is how to take the perfect timeout. And everybody thinks they know what a timeout is. I have lots of people tell me, oh, I took a timeout. And it's like, actually, no, you didn't. You violated a lot of trust in the relationship. So if you do nothing else, read about the perfect timeouts. It's going to save you a lot of heartache, and keep the relationship trust. And then there's a beautiful game that my partner and I developed. He also has a background in psychology. It's called Show Me Your Movie. And this is a game for couples to get to know each other's movies. Too often, people have two different movies on what happened. They just have two different realities. And then everybody kind of fights to try to win. No, this is what I said. And in Show Me Your Movie, we're just inviting people to suspend the need to win the argument and get curious about what the other person experienced, because it's just a movie anyway. And facts don't really matter in relationships, feelings do. And what my partner and I have found over the years playing that game is we get a whole movie, not just mine, not just his, but the whole movie. And it's like, wow, that's kind of exciting and enlivening. And we feel more connected to ourselves and to each other. And then there is my exquisite partnership formula, which is a 5-step process for a very firm no. This is not for those situations where you want to negotiate and compromise. This is where you absolutely positively have a no. And I developed it specifically for sexual scenarios, but you can apply it to almost anything. But let's just for a minute say it about sex. In those relationships where you love your partner and you want to be sexual with them, but you don't like the type of sex that's coming at you, this will be a lifesaver and a relationship saver, and also a thing to protect your eroticism with each other. The 5-step process allows you not only to say no, but to pull your partner closer to you. And that's a pretty uncommon thing. Most boundaries kind of, no, like this. This is a no, but come here. I have another idea.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Yeah. Well, I am the shame-free zone. So I realize I could have said some things that were a little bit triggering today, things that might have been overwhelming or confusing. So please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook under Veronica Monet, or just pop over to my website and you can contact me there, and I'll be happy to fill in the blanks.
And I will have all of those links for you on the podcast page. Thank you,
Yeah.
Veronica, for sharing your wisdom and your time with us.
It was really fun to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it flew by.
Always. Yeah. I love talking with you.
And hopefully we get to do it again soon.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. Thank you, Tania.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye for now.